All right. Peace and greetings, YouTubers. Betty Wright. You know, this is actually really crazy. I'm starting to swear that every time I get on the camera, we're talking about somebody who's transitioned. It's absolutely crazy. But, you know, it's a territory that comes with life, and things unfortunately happen, and all you can do is choose how you respond to what takes place. You know what I mean? But Betty Wright, totally a gem to music. I mean, when you think of just all the contributions she's had, not just as an artist, but just when you're talking about in the background and the support that she gave to so many different artists. It's really sad to see her go. It's crazy because Shaka Khan, I think maybe a week or two ago, and a few other people had made posts saying, hey, keep her lifted in prayer, but nobody really knew what was happening. But apparently she passed on from cancer. But again, Betty Wright, definitely a gem. She wasn't really my era, but the crazy thing was she was so saturated in my era at the same time because so many people sampled her music. And in addition to that, she pretty much still worked with a lot of the artists that I grew up listening to. So it's almost like she was always there anyway. As far as my actual introduction to her music, I would have to say probably No Pain. I remember that being on the radio as a kid. And I would say Tonight's the Night. That You Make Me a Woman would be one, but it wasn't the original version. It's the live version. For years, I thought that was the only version because that's the one I always heard. And then, you know, just doing my own research, I'm like, oh no, it was actually a real song. Because I used to always say, like, how is she talking about this was a hit, but I ain't never heard the other version. This is the only one I heard before. And so there's that. If I had a favorite song, don't judge. Please don't judge. But my favorite Betty Wright song is Slip and Do It. It really what it is I love the music. The music is so good on it. Now the message behind it, I'm like, what kind of trifling stuff is this? But no, I love that song. Slip and Do It. It just has some knock to it. It's just nice and funky. It's a good one. It just sounds like the 70s. I love that. That's a really, really good one. But it's crazy when we talk about the amount of people who have sampled it. I tried to pull up a list of just some of the current acts that people would know and some of the acts from before that have sampled her work. So you have Chance the Rapper, Mary J. Blige, SWV. I don't know if it's a 100% sample, but if you do listen to I'm So Into You, you still hear the same like bass guitar riff that you would have heard in Clean Up Woman. They little dun 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 dun. So I'm like, I wonder if that's a sample, if it's just a popular riff to do. But anyway, then of course Beyonce, Jay-Z, Upgrade You. A lot of people have really been talking about, you know, how cool it was to see how, you know, they took a Betty Wright song and remixed it and revamped it and made Upgrade You. Tupac, Childish Gambino, Color Me Bad, even though she got them together and took them to court because they didn't get permission beforehand. And then she even came out with a diss record just to make sure they didn't do it again. DJ Quick, Slim Thug, T.I., Bun B, Biggie Smalls, R. Kelly, Fat Man Scoop, DJ Khaled, Big Sean, Kendrick Lamar, of course Angie Stone, and they've worked together a lot of times. Prodigy, Joss Stone, even Vanilla Ice slipped up in there and it had a sample. The Roots, Bilal, YG. I mean, there's just so many, and it's crazy because her sound is just so embedded, especially in hip hop. And I also like the fact that as time progressed, she kind of became open to the idea of people sampling her work, and rather than, I guess, you know, being so, because I think there was a divide in music around the late 80s. I'll stick with the late 80s, mid 80s to late 80s. There was kind of a divide in music where a lot of R&B acts were not feeling what was happening with some of the hip hop acts, because it was like, y'all keep sampling our work. Some of us aren't getting credit. And you know, sometimes we didn't even have a hit with our original song, and then y'all go and sample it and it becomes this monster smash. So there was kind of a divide, but I think she was one of the early ones to kind of say, you know what, actually, this could be a partnership. This could be a relationship where we could kind of make this work. And I think as she embraced that, you just saw like the amount of music that she had just get sampled and utilized all throughout hip hop. One of the things I did want to shout out as well is what I really liked about her is that she worked with so many people. She was also not just somebody who was going to do the entertaining. You know, I can sing, but you know what? I want to show you guys how the business works. I want to show you how to, you know, really make it in the industry. In addition to that, when it came to singing, I'll be your vocal coach. Where do you need me at? You know, and so she worked with so many people. Even I remember watching Making the Band, and she was definitely the vocal coach on the episode, working with Danity Kane. And I can't remember if she was on the season with Day 26, but I remember her being on there with Danity Kane, and she's worked with so many. And then I had to just pull it up because I couldn't even remember all these people. But when you just talk about her credits as a session singer or a background vocalist on albums, she's credited on like 70 different albums. You know, that's some true humility as an artist, to go and not only do your own work, but also support somebody else. And so I'm just going to read a few of the projects that she's been on, because she's been on so many. or at least the artists that she's worked with. So there's let me see, Gwen McRae. If you remember her, that was the funky sensation lady. Johnny Nash, Stephanie Stills, Peter Brown, which I had no idea she was on Dance With Me, and I guess I wouldn't have. He wasn't from my era, but it's crazy. Like a lot of the songs I was introduced to that were, before my time, I usually discovered either from my parents or from movies. So I discovered Peter Brown's Dance With Me when I saw Undercover Brother. And so for all those years, I was just rocking to the song and everything. And then literally today, as I put on the Betty Wright playlist when I went for my little walk, and that song came on, I'm like, what? This ain't no Betty Wright. And then, I looked up the credits. I'm like, oh, she on here singing. Okay. All right. Look at me learning something new today. Lattimore, Beverly Johnson, Stevie Wonder. Like, why? That's something you put on your resume. I did a little something, a little for Stevie Wonder on a Tuesday one time, y'all. KC, Philip Michael Thomas, Gloria Estefan, she worked with a lot. She's on a lot of Gloria Estefan projects. Angie Griffin, let me scroll a little bit more. Phyllis Hyman. Y'all know Phyllis is one of my faves. She's on the Prime of My Life album. That's the album that has When You Get Right Down to It on there, and Don't Want to Change the World. Like, those are good. Those are good. Boy. I'm about to play some Phyllis after I play some Betty tonight. Let me see. Regina Bell. I'm still scrolling. There's so many. I'm skipping so many people. Bob Marley. Well, it was actually kind of like a tribute project that she's on, the Chant Down Babylon. Jennifer Lopez. Erykah Badu. Mama's Gun. Joss Stone. Angie Stone, of course. And I remember they came out with the song Baby while I was in college. That was a good one. Nas and Damian Marley. Like, just that's how you go out. You know what I mean? So, like, her sound, her work, her contributions are just embedded all throughout music. You can't escape her. So just like how I said in the Little Richard video, how I said pretty much, because he's a pioneer in the industry, it's like he just had a handful of seeds and just threw them out in the field and they just grew and sprouted into so many lanes in music. That's literally almost her experience. Like, I would look at her as like, if you're talking about the current house of music that exists, she's definitely built into the foundation that was able to support what would be built on top. You know what I mean? And again, even like her still being on some of the current songs that were out just 2 and 3 years ago, like she definitely was in the loop. And it's crazy because I just remember watching her Unsung maybe a week or two ago. Since we're all stuck in the house, I just literally just sometimes go through the rabbit hole of like Unsung or Behind the Music or YouTube or something. And so I remember watching her Unsung, and I think it actually just aired a few weeks ago anyway, as far as the initial airing. She just had such a great energy as well. And she just seems very down to earth. And when you look at the contribution she's done, especially in the Miami music scene, because really I've just talked about the really commercial stuff so far, but not even when you're talking about what she did regionally. And the fact that she also wasn't just rooted in R&B and soul music, but kind of tapped into a lot of genres, which is just amazing, like Brazilian jazz and everything like that. Are like, okay, we see you, like, definitely. And again, also, I definitely say I have a great appreciation for something like TV One, who I feel, because a network like VH1 no longer likes music and they just want to play, reality shows with everybody cutting each other's throat all day. I feel like TV One has done a great thing with Unsung, because I feel like it's put out so much information about many of the acts who, had something like Unsung not been out there, there'd be so many acts who kind of just disappeared in the shadows as the generations come up. It's one of the harder aspects of time progressing. The younger generations, if there's no one there to teach the history or share the history, or it's not presented, I guess, on larger platforms like it used to be, it's harder for the up and coming to really know. And people always say, well, the internet's there, you can just go look for it. But I feel like back in the day, shows and ed networks and stuff that used to air historical content in relation to music, it encouraged people to seek discovery of new things. Today, it's kind of like people have to, it's harder to go on the internet and discover things if you don't know what you're looking for. But if you turn on a TV show and it says, hey, there's this woman named Betty Wright who made all these really great songs and she did all these different sessions, and did you know she could also hit the whistle notes and stuff like that? If you're somebody who's never heard of her, automatically, something like a TV One Unsung, that's the introduction. And then from that point on, when we talk about that encouragement to go and discover, then you as a person go and you discover and you dig into the albums and you look at the performances and the tours and everything else like that. And so I wish there were more outlets like that. So kudos to TV One for Unsung. I hope they can get like a bigger budget, so sometimes they can go more in depth with some of their specials, because sometimes I think the artists sometimes deserve 2 hours, but it is what it is. But I commend them. Kudos to them. At least they're doing it. That's one of the reasons why, even at my own center, when it's like homework hour with the kids, I always play music, but it's like collective calm music and everything, just to kind of get them introduced to sounds that they may not necessarily always remember, because literally that's what my teacher did to me. If you ever heard my podcast when I talked about living in Italy, I had a fourth grade teacher, Miss Linden, and during class time or whenever we had to do work, she would always play a lot of music, but she would never play the current stuff that we knew on purpose, mainly because she was like, I don't have time for all y'all being here trying to sing and do benefit concerts. I need y'all to actually concentrate on the work. So she'd play a lot of jazz, a lot of blues, early soul, even some soft rock songs, Brazilian jazz, all kind of different sounds and everything like that. And so we got introduced to so many sounds. And now it was funny because maybe the first 2 or 3 weeks in, we'd be like, this isn't Busta Rhymes, and real talk, this was a white lady. She wasn't going on no Busta Rhymes anyway. But, over time, you got used to just hearing the different sounds of like Earth, Wind, and Fire. And you hear something like, I don't know, Isley Brothers. Or I always mention the song Gimmieabeat #1, a sonnet that's from 1888. And so you get used to hearing all these different sounds, and then you fast forward some years, and all of that's just embedded in your musical ear, and it gives you such a great appreciation for everything and everybody, and because music really does just all tie together. So it's funny that now you fast forward 20 plus years, I'm doing the exact same thing with the kids I work with, and they be like, this ain't Big Sean. I'm like, it's okay. Big Sean probably listened to this. This is sample somewhere here, so be quiet and listen. Go on, finish do that homework, please. But definitely, music just really, it all comes full circle. And so the great thing about Betty Wright is that her music, as I said before, is embedded everywhere. You can't escape it. And so her legacy is definitely sealed. Best wishes and condolences to her families and fans. And, even with her children and everything like that, I hope everything aligns and works out for all of them. And then even the city of Miami, because I know she was a gym there. She is to Miami what Chuck Brown is to D.C. And so, that's a loss there. But I'm glad that she was given her flowers while she was still alive. That's one of the cool things. She was definitely somebody who I think was always appreciated by multiple generations. And so that's all I have. I hope we don't have to do this again tomorrow. I really don't. But anyway, share your 2 cents. What's your favorite Betty Wright song or collaboration or sample or whatever it is you want to say? If I had a favorite sample that was used to Betty Wright, I really like Mary J. Blige's Real Love remix, especially when she performs it. Yeah, I always thought that was a fun one. Anyway, I'm out. Share your 2 cents. Subscribe.
I'm walking the pathway, leads to my greater. Promising for the next day, nothing can stop me.